now I'd like to invite Linda Cronin, the EVP of Media for Monks, to lead a discussion on GenAI personalization, advancing the promise of digital.
Hi, everyone. For those that are in the back, I think if we can take a seat, that'd be great. Today, we're here to talk about generative AI personalization and the road forward. And I'm joined by Sam Garfield, who is the head of digital strategy and communications at Adobe, Michelle, who works at Paramount as the SVP of marketing, and Jake Abel, Michelle, I should say, Michelle Garcia, and Jake Abel, who is the SVP of marketing at Paramount Plus. So hello, everyone. I am hoping that you can introduce yourself. We'll start with Sam. Just tell us a little bit about your position, and then maybe sum up in 1 to 2 words your company's approach to AI to date.
Great, thanks for having me. Sam Garfield, I lead our digital strategy group for media, entertainment, and travel. If I had to sum it up in 1 word, and it's hard to do that, I would say transformational. If you think about GenAI and where this is going, I believe it's going to be the most transformational technology of our lifetime. And think about that, everybody in this room, what we've lived through already in terms of transformation. The web, moving to the cloud, mobile, e-commerce, social. And here we are again talking about the next transformational technology. And Adobe's really leaning in on that.
Hi, I'm Michelle Garcia. I oversee consumer marketing for Paramount Plus. So my team spans from partnership marketing to brand to media strategy and lifecycle marketing. And we're really focused on driving acquisition, engagement, and retention of our subscriber base. So from where I sit, I mean, right now, I think we're approaching AI as more like a complementary tool to our efforts in sort of trying to, at the base level, really think through how we automate processes that are maybe tedious and tasks on the creative side, on the customer care side, but we are really encouraged about the future and what it can do to really bring the creativity, the media pieces together in a way that really can supercharge our marketing efforts.
Great. Good morning. My name is Jake Abel. I lead our strategy, operations, and media teams within the marketing organization at Delta Airlines. In essence, that role encompasses everything from strategy to the marketing technology, measurement, media planning. So by and large, a lot of my focus is on how we do our work as marketers, as well as how we invest across the organization. Ultimately, we're focused on driving as Delta, as a 100-year airline, celebrating our 100 years this year, is looking to transcend the industry. We're also looking to transform our marketing organization. And so I'm leading a lot of those initiatives that are really focused on effectiveness, efficiency, and innovation. So clearly AI is going to play a big part in that world. If I were to think about at Delta, 1 word in how we've been approaching and our approach to AI is, I would say, intentional. And that is, I think, a reflection of understanding the trust that we have with our customers and their data, understanding that where a lot of our applications as a service organization, yes, we aspire to transcend the industry beyond just moving people from point A to point B. But at our heart, our core will always be a service organization. And in that sense, that's where we really focus on making sure that our investments in AI are going to enhance our service and enhance the experience for our customers, both in the plane as well as part of their membership in the SkyMiles program.
That's great. Well, to build off of that, the journey that you've had to infusing AI into all of your marketing efforts, can you talk a little bit about that? Were you early adopters? Do you feel like there was hesitation in the beginning that you had to overcome? What did that journey look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think we always remind ourselves when we talk about AI is not actually new, right?
Fair enough.
Generative AI is newer. We've been using machine learning for years at Delta. We've been using it a lot in terms of how we think about our operation. So you start thinking about building models on how do we minimize connection times, how do we have the planes at the right gates, et cetera. Like, we've been doing that for a while. On the marketing side, we've been doing propensity modeling. We've been figuring out how do we provide the best recommendation, the most relevant recommendation for our customers. What is new is how we interact with that machine learning, right? And that's the generative AI piece that, I think we've got a nice roadmap built out. We've started to take some good steps towards that. I think 2025 will be the year that we have more actual concrete, and here's what we brought forward. So that process has been, like I said, intentional. As an organization, the previous panel we were talking a little bit, how do we approach that and govern that? Delta's a bit decentralized in how we approach both marketing, if you think about how you're marketed on the plane versus consumer marketing, or as well as in some technology aspects. But that's one of the things that makes Delta fast and helps us lead. But we do rely on a team that's helping accelerate AI and provide a bit of governance and make sure that what we're doing is intentional. I would say in that sense, we find it incredibly important to make sure that we're not just, yes, 2025 is a year, and I've heard many times a lot of people say, we need to stop talking about what we think we want to do with AI, and we want to, what we future want to do, we just got to go do it. I think we agree, but you can't just go do everything. These require a huge amount of investment from time, IT resources, et cetera. And so you've got to have a plan. And for us, that plan is sticking to our North Star and making sure that we're making the right bets, a few strategic bets in the right places that ladder up to our core priorities.
That's great. Thank you. Michelle, same thing. We talk about AI has been in media for more than a decade.
Yeah.
Generative AI, how you...
Well, yeah, I'd say similarly, right? A lot of machine learning already happening within our product, especially, right? Recommending the next show to watch, all of the propensity to stream, at-risk models, all of that has already been there. I think for us now, taking it to the next level, we do have to be really careful about how we approach content creation generatively, if you will. And so we're very, if anything, focused on how to really almost use it as a helpful curation tool. There's so much content on Paramount Plus, from SpongeBob to NCIS to Landman. There's so much to really think about the audiences that are watching Paramount Plus and how do you connect the dots, curate the next best thing to watch in a way that I think for me, it's how does AI drive the insights that are potentially latent in our data? There's so much we can do and we can see, but is there the supercharging of it that AI can allow that connects to things that maybe you didn't think would make sense? Metadata has always been around, that's a drama, a comedy. No, but there's way more, deeper level of connections that can be made that we're really excited to explore. I'd say, look, in general, that corporately, there's a CTO's, office where there's lots of productivity tools happening at the enterprise level relationships. But on the marketing side, we're really been encouraged to take on pilots with many of our partners, Adobe being one of them, our media agencies being others. And so we're really excited to figure out from the creative space and the media space, how do we take it to the next level and truly do get some wins on the board as well. And sort of the only way to really learn in our case is to test out some things and make sure it can scale, which is our biggest issue. So
That's great. And Sam, in your opening, you talked about kind of the marketing journey and having been around for a little while. How do you work with your clients to make sure that they're not just looking at generative AI as the nice new shiny thing, and how do you make sure that you're helping them connect it, obviously Jake and Michelle are, to their business goals?
Yeah, I love, Michelle, you were talking about scaling, because that's really, if you think about the evolution, I think it was Sir Martin, I heard him on a podcast, and he said 2023 was the year of wow, 2024 was the year of how, and 2025 is going to be the year of now. So now we got to scale this, and that's really how we look at it at Adobe. As yes, you might have these bright, shiny objects in other places, but if that's not integrated into the workflow, then you're not going to be able to scale it. And so we've spent a lot of time thinking about how do we integrate the generative AI in our products like Premiere, like Photoshop, like Express, where that's where the creative tasks are taking place. And so in the workflow that Michelle's team is using, or Jake, it's already, the tools are there and the generative AI is integrated. So now that we're comfortable with the outputs, we can scale that.
Love it. Great. Jake, Delta has such a diverse consumer base and markets. How are you using AI, generative AI, to help? Can you talk a little bit, elaborate a little bit about helping with that personalization in marketing?
Yeah, I mean, so if we think about, I mean, every business has, when we talk about personalization, every business has the opportunity to, get down to the one-to-one level. But if we think about, again, scale, as a company with over 200 million passengers every year, the destinations, the number of airports, then you start thinking about all of the screens we have on the airplanes, all the screens we have in the airport, the app. The number of places we try and want to communicate, and our customers want us to communicate with them, is growing exponentially. Now with the introduction of Delta Concierge, like that is all, it's just an exponentially growing opportunity for messaging and providing service for our customers. So the orchestration of that, the scaling up and being able to give the right message to the right person at the right time is really what I think that is going to be unlocked for us. As a marketing organization, that workflow that we're talking about today is a pretty manual process. I always say Delta marketing to date does great work through blood, sweat, tears, Outlook, and Excel. And there is a jump to be made in how we do that, because I don't know about anyone else, but marketing budgets aren't typically growing, right? And so, but our company and our aspirations are. And so that is where the need for efficiency is really critical. And we're working closely with Adobe on a whole content supply chain in terms of how we think about, again, we can make this kind of leapfrog jump from working out of just Outlook and Excel into AI-powered workflow that the business case and the models that we're looking at are talking about decreasing our time to both review or time to create some of these assets by 50%, right? It's an incredible ROI when you start thinking about that. And our creative teams are incredibly excited about that, because what it does is it takes them out of the mundane roles that they've, the mundane, not roles, but the mundane tasks that, aren't really filling their marketing cup, if you will, right? Or like I don't know, not a lot of people love resizing a bunch of assets. But when you start thinking about what that can do and free up their time to actually be the creative genius, the creative spark, that is where our teams get really excited. And then that allows them to come up with these really insight-driven, data-driven, creative propositions that then AI can help us scale. And that can then be matched to our network of screens, panels, et cetera, for distribution. So that's how we're thinking about that. And then when you start to layer in some of the commercial data around understanding where you fly, start to connect the data of what are you watching, what are the signals we're getting, that will help us bring actual, real, relevant benefit for our customers. And hopefully it needs to move beyond just the like, oh, gee, they know me. But we're bringing insight and the things you didn't even know you wanted is kind of how we're thinking about it.
Nice. As a almost million miler on Delta, I'm very excited about it.
Thank you for your million miles. Yes.
Michelle, do you have anything to build on?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say there's a couple projects we had done currently in our expanding into Gen AI, and that was actually with Adobe and Firefly, our creative team last year with the release of If, which was a movie based on If as your imaginary friend. And they were able to do this really exciting campaign where on social where folks were able to describe what their imaginary if would be. And using Firefly and the tool, in a matter of like a couple of hours, they had over 70 different versions of people's if, right? And that is not something that could have been done with the speed and the scale without that tool. So it was definitely a one-off that we were like looking to understand, like, what is the power? Can this be done? And obviously with content that is, created in a way to support the premiere, it drove engagement and really, highlighted that movie overall and what it could do and uniquely, right? And so how do we though take this unique thing that happened for that particular campaign, and how do we again scale it in a way that allows our creative teams to really again free up some space and whatnot, like creative space, but also bring unique things to market that gets buzz, that gets written about. And so I think there are ways too that it connects the dots. We don't want to ever tarnish the key art, the main element of the creative, but there are ways to do variations that really expand on the IP itself, right? That's really important. So it's just interesting for us, like whether it's that example or things that we're doing now in curation. Our product team recently this past fall looked into the insight. We have an older kid and younger kid profile on Paramount Plus, and we were able to create like moments around not just these are X type shows, but really talked about like what are they into, right? What kind of moments do they want to see, whether it's space exploration or pranks or different categories of things. And the AI tool was able to help curate across a ton of content and assets, like how do we create carousels that were based on space and or pranks and it was a new way to bring content forward that, with the help of also the human curation element, of course, but that we were able to unearth something that would have taken many, many, many days and weeks in time. And so that was able to be done in a way that we could easily test and figure out ways how we then can apply it across the board. So it's exciting.
I love it. Sam, you work with many, many companies in very competitive industries where customer experiences can make the difference of competitive edge. How do you help them balance between personalization and privacy and brand trust challenges?
Yeah, I mean, Michelle has some great examples that she just talked about with how they're using the tool, the generative AI tools to advance personalization. But I'd say, generally speaking, the customers I work with have, they're cautious in two areas, and rightly so. The writers and actor strike was focused on these issues, and so, these have to be addressed. The first area I would say that we talk to them about is, how was the information obtained for these models? Was it legally obtained? Is there transparency there? Do you understand the provenance of where this data or content's coming from? And that is the lifeblood of media companies, is content. So this is at the core of who they are, and it's really important. At Adobe, everything we've done is legally obtained. We provide indemnity. Like, that's a differentiation for us. We work with enterprises like Paramount and Delta who expect that of us. And so we've been at the forefront of that conversation, commercially safe, available generative AI tools. The second area I'd say the companies I work with are looking at is brand safety. So Michelle has to be comfortable that somebody on her team who is generating an image, it fits the brand safety guidelines of Paramount, and it's not sort of the Wild West where everybody's just generating images and sending it out there. And that's another area we've invested in our tools. We have a tool called Gen Studio for performance marketers, and that does a brand safety check. You upload your brand safety guidelines, and then as you generate an image, it says, okay, you hit 95% of the brand safety guidelines. This is good to go. So I'd say those two areas are the main areas, and Adobe's really investing in making sure that everybody we work with feels comfortable about where this is going.
Great. At Monks, we have been able to unlock quite a bit of value when media and content are working very closely together. Can you give me an example of how you're using generative AI in your creativity and your content with Delta?
Yeah, well, I mean, so we're using generative AI both in the creativity side as well as, even on all the way through to measurement, right? That's where the content plus the media equals this equation at the end of like, well, what did it do? And so to generative AI around the creative process, right? That is where there's the efficiency gains that come in. There's the creative sparks that come in there. But as we start thinking about applying the generative AI to, what is already the machine learning and the vast amounts of data that can be processed, is how do we then interpret that? Like, that's where we are starting to use that in terms of measurement and how, and working with, again, if we're thinking about transformation of marketing at Delta, effectiveness and how we measure and how we determine our ROI is going to be a huge piece of that. And so that is one of our strategic pillars in how we're using. We have a couple partnerships. We're looking at again those massive reams of data, understanding all of the different media investments that we have in market, whether that's actual traditional media investments, activations, we're in the news, et cetera. Taking that data, applying, using generative AI, and figuring out the causal chains that drove to that ultimately that booking. And I think that's where, again, some of those models have been there in the past. What's different is the ability to, winnow that down and understand at the high level, like, well, this is what that actually means, right? So we had, we did a test with that during our Olympics campaign this past summer in Paris. And the ability to start to see the blips of, well, actually, when we unveiled the livery or, the new decals on the planes back in February, that actually drove a bump. Like, those are really interesting data points you start to connect. And from a generative AI perspective, that's the leapfrog that's allowed us to make that jump.
Great. All right, we're almost out of time, so I'm going to ask for a quick rapid fire. Starting with Sam, can you tell us what's on your mind for 2025?
I'm really excited about the video aspects here. I think we've started with static imagery, but Adobe just released our Firefly video model and beta announced at Max. And for media companies, video is where it's at, and so I'm really excited about how fast that's going to move in 25.
I'm excited about, as I mentioned, automation at scale, really kind of getting to the place where we're taking these really amazing insights by target audiences, but just times 1,000. Like, how do we do that? Our subscriber base has grown so much. We're in multiple countries, like globally. And so how do we really start to super serve in a way that's not just these particular pieces and pockets, but just explode them across our entire base?
Likewise, I'm incredibly excited about, as we talked about Delta Concierge yesterday at Ed's keynote, AI really bringing value for our customers and feeling it, not just seeing it and saying, oh, Delta's on it, but actually feeling the benefit in their travel experience. So I think that will start to come through, and that'll be powered by the broader team as well as marketing.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone, for sharing today.
Thank you.